All right, so you want to learn Shakespeare as fast as humanly possible. You have it for a class, you're doing some assignment, and you need to know to be or not to be. I'm going to explain it as casually as humanly possible, as quickly as humanly possible, while still making it easy to understand, and I'm going to chill while doing it. All off the dome, let's go. To be or not to be, that is the question. That's about as straightforward as Shakespeare's ever going to get. To be or not to be, to live or not to live, to exist or not to exist, to alive or unalive, as we would now say. And I'm so sorry that I have to use that analogy, but that's going to come up often. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and I'll get to the next part, whether it's more noble as a human to deal with the bullshit of everyday life, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, which is kind of saying like by chance, or to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them, to off yourself. To take arms against the sea of troubles, all that bullshit, and off yourself, so you don't have to deal with it. It's truly what that means. To die, there you go, he explains it, to die. To sleep no more. That's basically saying to sleep no more is death, but he does go back to sleeping in a way where it's going beyond. We'll get to that. He explains it anyway in the next line. And by a sleep, to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. And by a sleep, to say we end all the bullshit that we have to deal with, that humans are just prone to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. A lot of people would crave to not have to deal with all that bullshit. That's about how far as that line goes. To die, to sleep. And then he gets a little, he starts considering things. He's like, wait a minute. To sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. He's catching himself. He's like, oh, there's something I didn't consider. To sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, maybe there is something. Aye, there's the rub. For in this sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. The idea of the unknown and us being afraid of that unknown and not knowing what that unknown is. That's the whole reason why we don't off ourselves. And he's basically saying, what is beyond, we must give it pause. We must think about the potential that there is something and how that could be fearful. Must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. And the respect, people respect the fear of the unknown, not knowing what's beyond. They respect it, and so they don't off themselves. They're respecting by not doing that. And that makes for the calamity of so long life. That makes for people to just have to deal with the bullshit because they don't want to have to deal with what that potential unknown is. They don't know and they're afraid. And then he starts listing off reasons why people would be able to deal with the bullshit. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disprized love, the law's delay, the insolence of office. All just varying ways to say the bullshit of life. And the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes. That's a bit of a weird line. I've had trouble kind of deciphering it. But it's basically saying, and the bullshit that someone unworthy of knowing what's beyond, I guess. That you could use spark notes for that one. When he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin. This is such a very simple line, and it's funny because I remember being in English class being like, bare bodkin, and then fartles in the next line. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? But it's very simple. When he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin, when he literally can just off himself with a dagger. That's all that line means. Who would do all that shit when you could just, well, stab and be done with it. Then he says, who would fartles bear? That's kind of like who would bear the load. Fartles is like my least favorite word. It kind of just throws off the flow. Who would fartles bear? To grunt and sweat under a weary life, to once again deal with this bullshit. But that the dread of something after death, once again going to that fear of the unknown. The undiscovered country, death, from whose bourne no but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will. Yeah, we've never seen anyone come back from death. It's kind of just throws us off a bit. And it makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. It makes us rather just want to deal with the bullshit of life instead of just going to that beyond, because we don't fucking know what it is. We don't know what that is. I don't want to have to deal with that. I like living. I can deal with some heartache, as long as I don't have to deal with that. That's all that line really means. I kind of lost my place. I gotta get back to that. Puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience doth make cowards of us all. That conscience of us choosing this rather than going to that beyond makes us all cowards, because we fear that too much that we stick to life. This conscience doth make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with a pale cast of thought. And thus the native hue of life is riddled in this gross film of just that always questioning what is beyond, but never taking the full leap of faith to learn what it is, that pale cast of thought. And enterprises of great pith and moment with this regard. This line always threw me off. And enterprises of great pith and moment with this regard. Again, just like the moment of being in this pale cast of thought, this film covering your judgment and continuing to question that. And enterprises of great pith and moment with this regard, their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. You eventually just stop caring about them and you just live through the sorrows because you question it so much that it just wears you down to the point where it just turns awry and loses the name of action. You're not going to fucking do it. You're a little coward. This conscious doth make cowards of us all. You're a coward, I'm a coward. Anyone living is a coward, because what is beyond could be great, but we don't fucking know. So we're just going to deal with the bullshit. There you go. That is Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be, as casually as I could possibly do it.